Every beginning has an end, and as we approach the end of this year, 343 has gifted the community with one last Canon Fodder for the year. A massive article with some great peeks at upcoming material, and a breakdown of some new lore featured in Halo Infinite. Nothing too major, certainly nothing addressing the actual legendary ending, but plenty of interesting details. So, let's dive in. The article opens with a brief summary of Halo Infinite's recent marketing, UNSC archives, the live-action trailers, the Memory Agent audio drama, all of which I would encourage you to check out if you haven't. Or if you have, check out my breakdowns of each series, highlighting the lore referenced and the impact of each story. But once we're past that, the article dives a bit into the various audio logs players can find in Infinite, which fill in much of the time between the game's opening cinematic and its main events. Starting with the UNSC intel, we have 4 recovered files, 4 audio logs that automatically unlock as the game progresses, and basically set up the whole reveal that the weapon was created from the spare brains of Dr. Halsey. Next, there's Infinity's approach, 12 audio logs found at each of Infinite's 12 forward operating bases that detail pretty much exactly what they say they do. Told primarily from Captain Lasky's perspective, they detail events before and during the Banished assault on the Infinity. After that, we have The Prisoner, 7 chilling audio logs telling the tale of a captured UNSC combat medic forced to unleash the Harbinger. And then we have the UNSC Outpost intel, a series of 14 UNSC audio logs found at the various Banished outposts across the ring that shed additional light on what the UNSC have been up to since Ringfall. Now, the UNSC audio logs are technically split into 2 main groups, UNSC intel and Spartan logs. While the UNSC intel covers a range of topics, the Spartan logs tell the story of what surviving UNSC Spartan 4s have been up to, from the evacuation of the Infinity, to Ringfall, to the establishment of a base in the shadow of the UNSC frigate Mortal Reverie, which later becomes Outpost Tremonius, incidentally, and the fight they tried to bring to the Banished. Sadly, I think we all know what happened after that. The Spartan logs are great, and look like they'll have some connections to next year's Halo Rubicon protocol, the titular protocol directly mentioned in the Spartan audio logs. Moving over to the Banished, next up we have Escherum's testimony, 9 logs that give additional insight into our main villain. Banished Outpost intel, a series of 15 Banished logs found at the various Banished outposts on Zeta Halo, including Outpost Tremonius, provide additional context and story to the Banished perspective. Finally, there are the archaeological findings, 4 data streams extracted by Banished scientists, yes those exist, that tie neatly into the last form of audio log found in Infinite, the Forerunner Archives. The Forerunner Archives feature additional audio from the installation's monitor, 117649 Despondent Pyre, as she agonizes over what to do about the Endless. The audio logs in Halo Infinite are absolutely great, a step up from what I generally consider a really good first attempt at Halo 5, but there's one last subject that Canon Fodder touches upon. The target dossiers. Each high-value target in Halo Infinite comes with a target dossier with additional details on why these targets are such a threat, all of which are worth reading. From there though, the article dives into expanded descriptions for some of Halo Infinite's multiplayer maps, the kind of stuff I honestly expected for Infinite. We start with Livefire, a training area at the Avery J. Johnson Academy of Military Science, aka JAMS. Located on a highly classified world, a series of information sanitization operations on former ONI data vaults have kept the world a secret. Spartans additionally take great care in keeping the location hidden, reviving several Cole Protocol safeguards to keep the world safe for as long as possible. Tactics made all the more important after the defection of the AI Leonidas and the fall of Laconia Station. Now it's home to a new generation of Spartan 4s and, especially after the disappearance of the Infinity, a potential staging area for other surviving UNSC forces. Next up we have Deadlock, a mid-sized BTB map with one of Halo Infinite's coolest additions, active map elements, for lack of a better phrase. Set on Installation 07, we can see one of the Banished AA guns, a Gore Spike cannon. Above, a UNSC Mulsanne-class frigate can be spotted, separated from its battle group and forced into the cannon's kill box by hunter-killer warships in the void above. While Spartan ground teams were deployed to cripple or destroy the cannon network node, the fate of this ship remains unknown. We next have High Power, another BTB map, which notably features another of the Mulsanne-class frigates overhead, the UNSC Panama. Interestingly, these class of frigates are the second to feature a directed energy weapon, a Bright Lance reflex laser, which we can see firing upon the Purveyor of Virtue, a Covenant remnant assault carrier. An assault carrier, by the way, that's actually a screenshot of the Sins of the Prophets model that accidentally made its way into the final game. Luckily, 343 acknowledged this and updated the game's online credits appropriately. Anyway, high power is set at a UNSC power and fuel processing station. While the Panama performs a delaying action, the station is evacuated and supplies extracted to be transported to another redoubt. Normally no match for an assault carrier in a straight fight, the carrier cannot deploy its full power without risking annihilating the prize its crew were instructed to occupy and exploit. After that, we have Launch Site, one of the maps leaked during the tech previews. Set at an unknown Saber facility, it seems that these starfighters were quietly put into production after the Covenant War. Proven to greatly outmatch Covenant Seraphs and even Banished Grievers, a new Banished fighter that I don't believe we've heard about before, what Saber squadrons remain intact closely guard their remaining supplies. Even now, they are prime targets for Banished Raiders and lingering created affiliates. So yes, the created are still out there. I'm honestly hoping we might fight some surviving splinter groups in future DLC. Halo Infinite does a pretty good job at handling the created, I think, but I don't want to see their potential squandered completely. 343 should be bold enough to bring the created back, reintroduce them to fans in a new and exciting manner. There's so much that can potentially be done, especially with the new mechanics 343 have introduced with Halo Infinite. Next up we have Recharge, an Axis water treatment facility. Starting from humble beginnings as a colonial startup, collaboration with the UNSC military during the insurrection helped the company grow. By the end of the Human Covenant War, Axis was a giant in colonial infrastructure and automation, now serving as a de facto corpocracy on several worlds. Halo 5 also touched on corporations effectively controlling entire worlds, a not uncommon occurrence in the post-war galaxy. Using a plan suggested by the infamous Dr. Halsey, the UNSC now plans to use its connections to infiltrate tertiary Axis facilities, redirecting supplies and planting carefully crafted misinformation to weaken corporate-backed independence movements backed by Axis. After that, we come to the familiar Bazaar, home to 1,000 Easter eggs. Though we've already heard a lot about the map, 343 still finds new lore to lay on us, revealing that massive investments into rebuilding Mombasa, part of Project Rebirth, were convenient covers to carry out operations in the nearby Voi accession. The main portal site extends from Voi to New Mombasa, over 96 miles or 155 kilometers, but this only scratches the surface, the UNSC discovering more and more of the labyrinth of Forerunner systems beneath the surface. In Mombasa itself, reconstruction has been dramatically faster than expected, but has led to a divide between the original citizens and a new wave of workers and researchers recruited from displaced colonial populations. And closing out this section, we get a look at Streets, another map set in New Mombasa, this one closer to the city center. While crime, graft, and violence are always part of the 26th century urban experience, the proximity of such massive Forerunner secrets has enticed several insurrectionist factions, Covenant splinter groups, and even banished allied human groups to descend upon the city. Joint Task Force Mariah pushes back against these underworld elements, responsible for the safety and security of the portal complex and its connected facilities that run beneath the city. Periodic training evaluations in sectors of the city known to be staging areas for crime are regularly held to keep the task force trained and effective. Stuff like this is what I really wanted from the map descriptions for Halo Infinite. As veterans of this channel may recall, I loved how each map description in Halo Wars 2 was essentially its own short story, and I had hoped that 343 would keep that up going forward. While that sadly hasn't been the case, I do hope that vocal support for such features, including a codex, might change some minds. Speaking of the expanded lore, this latest issue of Canon Fodder closes out with some new details on the upcoming Halo Encyclopedia. And first up, in case anyone missed this, a deluxe edition was recently unveiled. Featuring a Silex-styled container, an exclusive lithograph, and unique cover art, this is a must-have for any lore fan. I've naturally left links below for anyone interested in snagging one. But this isn't just advertising for the special edition of the Encyclopedia. As a bit of a holiday gift, we get another piece of unique character art and an excerpt from the Encyclopedia itself. Starting with the excerpt, it reveals that skirmishers in Halo Infinite aren't exactly the same as the ones employed by the Covenant. During the Covenant's reign, only Tavau and Kig-Yar were allowed to carry the skirmisher mantle. However, the Banished have discovered that the skirmisher legacy is tied deeply to the ancient past of the Kig-Yar, and thus allowed many non-Tavauans to take up the skirmisher role. In short, the skirmishers in Halo Infinite aren't all traditionally Tavau and Kig-Yar, but a mix of traditional skirmishers and the original Rutian Kig-Yar with some fancy headdresses. Quick side note, I love that 343 have made so many of the skirmishers female. I really hope that we can see some more gender diversity among the species as time goes forward. Female Sangheili Wen 343. As for that picture, this one is an absolute treat on so many levels. The elite pictured here is none other than Usa Zealous, one of the main characters from John Shirley's Halo Broken Circle. Usa fought during the War of Beginnings, the first contact war between San Shayum and Sangheili that eventually led to the formation of the Covenant. Usa was one of the many Sangheili who rejected the promises of the San Shayum and led a contingent of Sangheili off-world to make a new home for themselves. That home turned out to be a Forerunner shield world, but if you want those full details, check out Broken Circle. Depicted here by artist David Heidhoff, Usa is indeed wearing a version of the old-school elite armor first seen in the Macworld 1999 demo. And side note, I love that 343 are reusing old concepts like this. First the Orion armor and now this. I can't wait to see what else 343 brings back into the canon. But getting back to Usa himself, another cool detail for the eagle-eyed viewers is the blade that he wields. This is no energy sword, but a burn blade, an ancestor to the energy sword. An evolution of the older curved blades, burn blades were metal blades heated from within, burning targets while cutting them, though the wounds created by the blades do not cauterize. It's so damn cool to see this ancient piece of technology finally visualized, and once again, bravo to 343 for finding a creative way to introduce an old design into the canon. But that pretty much wraps up this issue of Canon Fodder. Well, almost. This issue was called Legendary Endings for a reason, as it marks the last issue to be written by GrimBrother One, aka Jeff Easterling. Starting next year, Canon Fodder will be helmed by Haruspis, Alex Wakeford, a longtime community member who recently joined the 343 community team. So, as we wrap up this massive issue of Canon Fodder, let's give Grim a congratulatory send-off and congratulate Alex on his new position. I've always loved reading Alex's articles in his blogs, and I'm looking forward to his approach for Canon Fodder. As always, thank you for watching. Stick around for that Patreon shoutout, and until next time, this has been Halo Canon. First, I'd like to give a big thank you to our Haruspis patrons. First, there's Hope, then we have Freight, Discombobulated Sycophant, Justin Montgomery, Man in the Dark, Keisha Dila, Daddy Anarchy, Great Scott Productions, Jumpy Sucks Balls, Lone Ronin 117, Austin Cantrell, and Ever Corrado. Thank you all for your amazing support of the channel. Next, I'd like to thank our theoretical patrons. If you'd like to see your name here or get a direct shoutout, check out patreon.com/halocanon. You can simply support the channel or get additional benefits, such as behind-the-scenes materials, including raw audio for upcoming videos, or even shoutouts like this. All patrons now get early access to certain videos as well, and your Patreon title will appear in the Halo Canon Discord. However, your continued viewership is more than enough for me. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and maybe even subscribing to the channel if you aren't already. If you really enjoy my stuff, turn on that notification bell so you can be among the first to see new videos when they release. But for all